All right, guys, another very special guest, and was excited as I was doing some research as we set up the interview. Got to work with one of my good buddies as I first came into country radio, Brent Cobb, on one of his previous albums. We're going to talk about a new rendition of an album, if you will, with Adam Hood today. And first off, Adam, it's a privilege to visit with you, man.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on here this morning. Thanks.
Now tell us about the new single's been out there for a few weeks, the new album as well, or the re-envisioned album, if you will. And for you, I love the reading that I did about the album and what redoing this means for you, and how much more heart are you able to give those songs maybe than you were on the original project?
Man, I understand it was a bold move. And, but to me, it like once we kind of got into the process of doing it, and once I sort of committed to it, and, my wife and I spent a lot of time kind of prayerfully talking about it and trying to figure it out, because, she had kind of mentioned this, you should redo this record or just kind of rediscover it or try it. And I tossed it off for a long time. And then when I got the opportunity, when I met Gordy Quist and the band, the Heathens guys, I started talking to them about it, and everything just kind of fell into place, And so for as bold of a move as it was, it felt like a really natural progression from the conception of you should do this until the whole thing came out. You know what I mean? And so, in the actual, to answer your question, it was spectacular. I feel like, and especially because of the fact that the original project, that was the first time I'd ever been into the studio. I wasn't comfortable with my voice. I started taking voice lessons there. And so there was all these things that were so brand new to me. Even like the writing process, like writing for a project and stuff like that, like all of it was brand new to me. And, you're talking, some 20 odd years later, and living with these songs, and these songs kind of meaning as much as they have to people. Like, these were my first singles that I took out to Texas radio and to Americana and just to everything, like it was my introduction to really the kind of music world from a professional perspective. And so it was really great. And like I said, I've been living with these songs long enough to where I knew all the little cracks and corners that I wanted to change, and it wasn't a whole lot. There weren't a whole lot of changes that we necessarily made. I just feel like we just kind of, sanded off some rough edges and dialed it in really good. And it's the record I wanted to make.
And for you, as you look back at the process then and how the process has changed over the years, how have you grown in studio? I'm sure you've been asked a lot about how your songwriting process has changed. How has your studio process changed?
It's a confidence thing, really, to be honest with you. Because at the end of the day, I don't sing any more correctly than I did. You know what I mean? It's all kind of, it's flat where it's flat, but at the same time, it's just the understanding of like the understanding of the delivery of the song, if you will. And then just sort of knowing how to deliver it, knowing where to keep it quiet, knowing where to push, knowing kind of just, I've listened to my voice enough to know kind of the little nuances that I can bring to songs like that, and it comes out when I write it, but sometimes a song is, well, there's no sometimes, it's always, the song is kind of always bigger than you. And so you sort of have to figure out a way to even though you are sort of the vessel that it comes through, you got to sort of put your own piece into it, and that sometimes that can be a challenge, and especially with some of these songs. Like I said, I've lived with these for a while, but they're different from the songs I write now, and a lot of it's because of the fact that like there was a lot more diversity in the stuff I was listening to, and I wasn't really writing as much then. Like I was writing more directly towards, like it was a song every 2 months as opposed to like a song a week,
And how do you pace yourself in the writing process? Is it something that you sit yourself down, you have a set schedule that you do writing, or is it something more inspirational? You get an inspiration, you jot a little note down. I mean, how is the process for you?
Man, I saw this quote that, Rick Rubin said, and I'll paraphrase it. He said, you don't, you can't go into it and say, I'm gonna write 3 songs today. You know what I mean? You just don't. We're not always fortunate enough to have the ability. You can do it, but at the same time, in order to sort of be able to express yourself creatively and to kind of create a piece of work. I mean, I can't. I'm just not lucky enough to be able to do it at will. You know what I mean? And so I have to. It's still a work in progress. I have to kind of learn to be open to ideas. And so when I do get those ideas, through conversation or something I hear on TV or a book or something like that, that's a song moments. You got to really make sure that there's all kinds of stuff in my notepads and my phone and stuff. And so I just try to write it down. And then, once I write it down, there's usually time and place where I can, that's kind of the reason why I go to Nashville. I mean, I go to Nashville to write, if nothing else, and so in those times, if I have one writing appointment during the day, well, I can, let's say 11 o'clock, I'm done by 2. I try to go back to the apartment and just sit and take those things that I've written down and pilfer through them and say, okay, this is good. Or just, I don't know, just kind of see what strikes me, and then create some form of music to it. And that's a piece of a song,
And to carry the genre, the Southern roots sound, the Southern country roots sound for you, where you talked about getting the voice lessons earlier. I mean, how much did voice lessons change you, or were you able to kind of go a little bit more inside yourself as over the last 20 years to build the voice and the sound, if you will?
The lessons, the thing is, and here's a misconception about vocal lessons, and this was my misconception at the beginning too. It was you think to yourself that it's going to change the way you sing. And yes, it is going to change the way you sing, but it's more for a preservation's sake. It's more so that you can, that if you got shows on Thursday and then you got shows on Saturday, that by Sunday you still got a voice, and, right. And so it's really for the sake of just kind of it's more like it's exercise, it's strengthening the muscles, it's learning how to breathe, it's learning how to sort of, and in doing that you can, well, I've been able to, but it creates a control basically, because the exercise sort of strengthens the muscle. I can create a control to where I at least can get a little closer to singing the things I want to sing the way I want to sing them. You know what I mean? For whatever that may be. Like I said, it may come out like hillbilly. I don't know, whatever it is. I don't know. But nonetheless, at least I can get my point across and sort of, like I said, just make the delivery what I want it to be.
Now, when you work on a project for yourself or a songwrite that is intended for yourself, is that different whenever you're looking to write for yourself, and rather than just sitting down to write for maybe whoever, if you will?
They turn out that way. I don't necessarily go into it that way. Again, like I said, it's really just kind of it's grabbing ideas out of the ether and then trying to create music out of the things that you hear. And so, it turns out that way though. And a lot of it just depends on who I'm writing with and the time, if we're working on a record, then we're working on a record, and so, to answer your question, yes, it is, but it's never directed that way. Like, you always go in there with the intention of saying, well, okay, let's say I've been doing some writing with Cody Cannon from Whiskey Myers. Those guys are making a record. Well, I've got a number of write scheduled with him. So we may, out of the stuff that we write, let's say he records one of them well, and we write 4 songs, then, there's 3 still there. Are they appropriate for me? Are they appropriate for another Whiskey Myers record? Are they appropriate for something Brent's doing or something else? You know what I mean? So, the intention is really just to finish the work. And yes, you go into it with the process, but it never starts out that way. Like I never have songs that I go, okay, this is really good for so-and-so, unless it's a female, you know what I mean? Like there's kind of, sort of, I hate to say gender specific, but I mean, if you're using he's instead of she's, you're probably going to write that song for a female. You know what I mean? So anyway,
that's funny. Now, do you have any that you've had put away that you're looking to push over to the Swift camp?
Oh man, I wish. I'm no good at pop music. That's the thing. And and the funny thing is, like, you listen to music like that, and granted, I don't know how directional her stuff is to pop music. It very much is. However, you listen, the best pop songs they're just great songs, and you listen to them and you go, man, that is really so eloquently said, but so simple at the same time. And it's always I can do that moment until you try to sit down and do it. I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, pop songs are hard to write and children's songs are more hard. Children's songs are more difficult to write than pop songs are. If you really think you're a good writer, try to write a children's song. Try to write a record of children's songs. You'll change your brand.
Now, Adam, who are the songwriters out there that inspire you today? That are maybe taking some chances, doing some things that are maybe a little off the norm, if you will.
I mean, Brent's doing great. I do two things. I continue to pull from the guys that I've always pulled from. I believe that masters are and forever will be masters. And then I've got good friends. I mean, Brent's a good buddy. Jason Eady is a great friend of mine. He and I do a lot of writing together. Channing Wilson is a really good buddy of mine. He and I do a lot of writing together. And then, but I still go back to John Hyatt records. I still go back to Delbert McClinton records. I still go back to Jackson Browne and Guy Clark and stuff like that. I mean, there's just, man, I was thinking about it today. Just Guy Clark's approach to songwriting, there's just a depth there that you can sort of, you can pull from that for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like it's, there's direction there, but there's always kind of happy endings and there's just, just good moments, you know what I mean? And it just makes for great music. And so, I feel pretty fortunate in the fact that I've found the music that I've found early for inspiration's sake. And then I've got buddies that I write with that kind of, we're all like-minded.
That's cool. Now, the couple singles that released, Buzzes Like Neon and Varnado, for you, is one maybe a little more special to you in maybe the memory of that song?
Varnado has a better backstory, but Buzzes Like Neon sort of had a lot more staying power. You know what I mean? Like it was the one to where, when we kind of started playing these songs out leading up to the original release of the original record, and then throughout all these years, Neon has really kind of stood out a little bit more. It's the one that people have related to a little bit more. But I think Varnado has a lot more interesting of a backstory.
And I know we're going to go back an album here, but as I was listening to music over the last week, as we were leading up to this, I was picking up some different songs, and the one that's been sticking to me, because I told you how we've had life has kind of hit us over the last year and a half. Yeah. Broke but not broken, man. I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that song because, dude, that just hit me right in the face.
Well, thank you. Man, I appreciate you saying that because, I've been doing this recently. We did it before the Bad Days Better record. We've done it during the re-recording of the Different Groove record. And then I'll probably do it again this year. I wound up going into the studio and just kind of cutting these 2 or 3 songs. Well, when we were recording Different Groove, I did that. Like I said, I did it in Austin at the finishing school. And I wrote that song with Jason Eady, and so he was at the finishing school. The studio is at a house, and then there's a house next door where you stay. Okay, so Jason said, "Well, I've got nothing to do on Wednesday. Why don't I just come by and let's try to write some stuff? I got a record to make. Let's do some stuff, this, that, and the other." And so So he came in, and we had that song, and we had another one. And I mean, it's funny because, man, that song, it kind of wrote itself. And again, it's another example, of, you you think you know what you're doing, you know what I mean? But then you finish that song, and man, he and I were just kind of sitting there listening to it. And there's just so many different ways to kind of spin that song, and I mean, for it to say so little, it says so much. And listen, he and I, even with our heads together, we are not that smart. You know what I mean? Like, we are not clever enough. That song is bigger than us. But I'm really proud of it, and it suits Jason's style a little more than mine, but it shows kind of the similarity in our style. Like, even though it is more Jason's style than mine, I do have songs in that sort of, a little bit more lower key, a little bit more sort of, kind of lower melodic, slower kind of things. And so I'm proud of it. Yeah. And I appreciate the fact that you dig that song.
Yeah. And, for you, we talk about how therapeutic music is, and that's how Broke But Not Broken. That's how it hit me. It was therapeutic. It's one of those that helped me. For you, whenever you need therapy music wise, what are some of your go-tos? What are some of your go-to songs that you plug in?
Oh man. I mean, the whole writing process is kind of like breathing, you know what I mean? Like, there's kind of anxiety that builds up, and then you finish a song and it's a real burden lifted, and so, I mean, just that process is great. I mean, as far as like listening to stuff, oh man, let's see. I'm trying to think of some stuff that I've been listening to. I can always go back to Stones records. I can always go back to that kind of stuff. And like I said, I mean, the Guy Clark records is just there's a depth and just kind of a perspective on life and music and stuff that I can really just pull from.
That's cool. Now, what's the next project? What's or the current? I mean, there's never a next project. You're always working on another current project, right?
I didn't realize that I had to work at such a pace. We were talking about the other day, and I mean, Band Aid's Better has only been out a year. You know what I mean? And so, like, we're already working on a new record. I mean, you and I have been around long enough to where it used to be a 3-year process, and now there's like a 12-month process, which is fine. I mean, I realize that I cannot operate at this level, or not this level, but I can operate this pace. I just never have had to. You know what I mean? So, right. I mean, I'm still working with Brent, and we're gonna go back in December and try to cut some more songs and kind of see where that leads. I love the stuff that he's doing. I love the fact that, we're recording, he's been doing a lot of work with Capricorn and Macon. I just never thought, you hear of those studios all the time. I mean, we live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, so I'm about an hour south of Muscle Shoals, and as much as I've recorded in Nashville and as efficient as their efforts are, and just, you can, I mean, I've made a lot of great music in Nashville. It's cool to have a place like Capricorn that is off the beaten path. Number one, number two, historical. Number three, that room is magic, man. I mean, there is a reason why it is as legendary as it is. There is magic in that room. And I think Brent's got it dialed in, and we talked about it a lot. And yeah, we're going to go give it one more shot and see what happens. And if we go in and we give it one more shot and it's great, we'll put that record out and we'll go give it another shot. You know what I mean? So that's, just kind of just taking one step in front of the other, really.
Now, over the last 20 years, we've seen so much change in the music industry, and social media has popped up for us. And Adam, how much of a challenge, and which one has been the most challenge for you?
It has been an adjustment. Yeah. Man, my wife is a force. She's really kind of, I think she has a knack for the whole social media thing, and also is a good driving force, and somebody that can kind of keep me in line and sort of help me think through things that I can't think through on my own, and kind of give me ideas that I can't come up with on my own, and sort of help me plan strategies and posting times and things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, it has been a challenge. But, I mean, if you don't accept challenges and you don't stay open to things, you don't grow. And so I just assume take it. And it's kind of fun. I mean, the cool thing is about social media, and the cool thing is about the streaming process, is the fact that you can specifically see exactly how many people are listening, and who they are, and where they're from, and what time they're listening to, and what age they are. You know what I mean? Like, you can really, if you want to get into it, you can really target your audience. I mean, the people that comment on my posts, I notice are people that I know them. And even if I don't know them and they comment on my post, I see them at shows. Like let's say someone comments on something I made yesterday, and then they come to a show. I know that person, and I know that person through social media. And before then, there was not that opportunity. There was no way to specifically get to know your audience and get to know, I mean, the names and homes and really exactly who is my music reaching. And if you can do that, I mean, my manager, Ben Ratliff, said the same thing. He said, the guys that have really sort of stood the test of time, the Willies and the Whalens and guys like that. I mean, they didn't have, they didn't have any marketing strategy other than just delivering their music to their fans and trying to make sure that, they just gave them the best, the most honest version of what they do to the people that are listening, and just kind of take care of the people that are taking care of you. And this is the best way to do it. It really is. There's no better way to do it. And so I embrace it.
That's cool. And that last line, one of the lines you said in there, was one of the descriptors I would say about your music, and that is honest. And for you, having on it, being so honest in your music and transparent, if you will, in your songwriting, did that come natural, or was that something you really had to work on?
Yeah, you got to work on it. Yeah, I mean, you got to learn how to work on your honesty without airing your dirty laundry. You know what I mean? That was a hard lesson to learn, because it was easy for me to be honest, but it was not easy for me to learn how to be honest and not hurt anybody's feelings. You know what I mean? And that's a hard lesson to learn when you want to be honest, because at the end of the day, I didn't start writing because I wanted to be a star, like we were talking about. I mean, I started writing because I had stuff to get off my chest, and I had to learn how to get it off my chest without hurting anybody. And the best way to do that is just to talk about yourself, really. You know what I mean? To just say, well, here's how I feel about it. Not here's how you should feel. Here's how I feel about it. Whatever it may be. And then in doing that, try to take the I out of it so that it's not so personal that no one else can relate to it. You know what I mean? Like, this is, instead of like, this is how you should feel, here's how I feel, I hope you feel the same way. You know what I mean? And that's a process. It took me a long time in doing that, and trying to make it rhyme, and trying to make it interesting, and just trying to make it not only interesting but conversational, and not talking over anybody's head, and let it be poetry without being poetic. And you know what I'm saying? Just the whole thing. It's man,
there's a lot to it. He said there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it. If you want to write good songs, there's a lot to it.
That's right. Well, Adam, I always want to make sure and let our listeners and our viewers know where they can keep up with the new album, the upcoming albums, all the previous music, obviously YouTube, socials, all that as well.
Everything is available through my website. If you go to adamhood.com, there's merchandise, there's links to all my social media, there's videos, there's tour dates, there's anything that you would want is available at adamhood.com. And so, and we're out on all streaming platforms. We're out on all social media outlets. And so, yeah, if you want to know, just go to adamhood.com and you can pretty much find it there.
Well, that's good stuff. And Adam, it has been a privilege to have the chance to meet you, get to know you a little bit better today. And hopefully we can do it again real soon, brother.
Likewise, Cam, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation.